Welcome to the English Epics channel. Dad gave me some wise words when I started dating, he said. Son, highly respected men do not tolerate any disrespect, manipulation, or lies from girls or women. Be confident in yourself and always be a highly respected man. Bad news, darling. The merger meeting was just rescheduled and I have to leave tomorrow morning and I won't be back until the end of Sunday. I know how important this wedding is for you, especially since you're the bridesmaid. What do you have to understand? I've just been promoted to financial director, and I can't miss the meeting because so much depends on it for the company and our future. You'll have to go without me, sorry. Are you serious? You know how long we've been planning this, and now at the last minute you're going to cancel everything, and I'll be there alone. Do you even realize how awkward this will be for me? Haven't you tried to do anything? Can't anyone else go in your place? Vera, this deal is valued at more than $2 billion, and I am leading this project. You know how hard we've worked on it over the past year, and no one else can take my place. Our success depends on the jobs of so many people. Sorry, I know it's hard, and I will make up for it with the bonus money we will get from this deal. I know you're angry, but I can't do anything about it. I'll be back on Sunday. To say that she was angry would be an understatement. She stopped talking to me and ordered me to sleep in the guest room. No intimacy or sex before my trip. It was unusual. Her coldness and anger were also uncharacteristic. I tried to understand, but I couldn't soften her anger, so I packed my things for the trip and that night slept in the guest room. I knew the wedding was important to her because of all the hardships that her friend Carol had gone through in her life. Her ex-husband cheated on her during her life-threatening illness and left her because he couldn't bear to watch her slow death. He acted cowardly. This devastated Carol and didn't improve her situation at all. But after her miraculous recovery, Carol filed for divorce because she had been abandoned, and for the next 5 years she lived in depression. All her friends and family were by her side and tried to encourage her, but it was in vain. Then one day she met a guy in the grocery store and her world blossomed. She became herself again. The prayers of her friends and family were heard and everyone wanted to celebrate the joyous event. Brandon, her fiancé, deeply loved her and planned this stunning wedding. Vera was her best friend and maid of honor. She was always by her friend's side. I knew this was important to Vera, and I didn't want to cancel, but I couldn't do anything about it. I knew I would have to make up for my fault with her somehow and find a way to soothe her anger. Before leaving for my trip the next morning, I tried to kiss Vera goodbye, but the door to our bedroom was locked, and she wasn't going to open it for me. I told her that I loved her and would call when I landed in Germany. Not receiving any answer, I sadly headed to the limousine waiting for me, which would take me to the airport. I felt terrible and miserable because of her actions and her lack of understanding of my situation. After 19 years of marriage, I had expected more patience and care. I called her before the flight, but her cell phone immediately switched to voicemail. I left her a message with apologies once again, hoping for a response. I sent another message before takeoff and one more when I landed 10 hours later. As usual, there was no answer, no voicemails, no texts. I knew she was angry, and I would have to apologize for a long time to regain her favor. With no other choice, I called our twin daughters at college and told them about my trip and how my work plans had changed, that their mom was upset with me and not answering my calls. I asked them not to say anything and just check on her to make sure she was okay. I told them that I was worried about her, and I would feel much better if they could tell me that she was fine. They understood and told me they loved me. They had always been daddy's girls and I loved them very much. Germany. After arriving at the hotel, I called my general director to find out the latest news, and to my horror, the meeting had just been canceled because the general director of another company had lost a family member and the meeting would have to be rescheduled. I immediately called the airline and booked a direct flight to Chicago, which was only 30 minutes away from the venue. Since the wedding reception started at 7 p.m., I decided I could arrive by 9 p.m. and still be a good husband. I was sure that this would make her happy. After I picked up the car, the GPS instructed me how to get to the reception hall. It was just after 9 when I arrived at the reception and the celebration was in full swing. The music was loud, everyone was dancing, and the champagne was flowing. There were many drunk people enjoying themselves and celebrating. It was truly a joyous occasion, and I was happy to be there, although I really wanted to be with my wife. At the reception, there were more than 200 people, and I couldn't see Vera when I entered. I approached the open bar and ordered a double bourbon, stepped aside, and looked around the crowd for my wife. I was reflecting on our past and how we ended up here. Vera was 5 years older than me and had recently divorced when we met. Her ex-husband, Dr. Clayton Adams, was a resident at Mercy Hospital when they divorced. Dr. Clayton, as he liked to be called, was caught cheating with one of the nurses at the hospital. When Vera found out about this, she kicked him out, devastated by his betrayal. She wanted children and a happy life, but this jerk destroyed her dreams. She divorced him, and after the divorce she was in depression and without money in her pocket. Because the locals earned very little money and the divorce simply divided their property. She became a waitress and barely made ends meet. Thanks to this episode in her life, she knew firsthand what Carol felt. When I met Vera, it was love at first sight. I fell head over heels for this woman. Perhaps she was broken and suppressed, but I knew she was an unpolished diamond. I saw her obvious beauty, but I fell in love with her heart and her caring character. I saved her from herself, turned her life upside down, and gave her 19 wonderful years filled with the love of our twin daughters. Vera liked my serious approach to relationships. We constantly discussed fidelity and commitment, and this made her feel safe. I made it clear to her that I was a loyal partner and would never, under any circumstances, tolerate infidelity, and I praised her for leaving her cheating husband, no matter how hard it was. I explained that many people would put up with it to save their marriage or maintain financial security, and I admired her ability to move on. This was the foundation of our marriage: trust, loyalty, and determination. Before this damn wedding, I was living a wonderful life, completely satisfied and in love. Vera looked amazing for her 44 years, but I was 5 years younger and in excellent shape. In fact, at the age of 39, I was in the prime of my strength. Thanks to my regular training in the gym and 5-kilometer runs, I was at the peak of my productivity. She had an amazing body and we were magnificent in bed. Our age difference wasn't a problem, and we rarely discussed it over the years. We raised 2 wonderful twin daughters, Marcia and Carrie, who are now in college just 4 hours away from home. They were happy and enjoying student life, preparing for their future. We had a great family and a stable marriage, at least I thought so, until I saw my wife sitting alone with Clayton, her ex-husband. I knew Clayton was another of Carol's friends, but I didn't expect him to be at the wedding, not to mention being here alone without his wife. Tired from the journey and intrigued by what I had seen, I stood and observed them sitting alone together. I was struck by how friendly they seemed as they talked about their history. I decided to watch for a few more minutes to fully understand what they were doing. It didn't take long for my world to shatter. I was already about to approach them and interrupt their celebration of love. But before I could make my move, she stood up, took his hand, and led him to the dance floor. She looked stunning in that form-fitting ivory dress, and my heart rushed toward her, praying that this was nothing more than just a dance. Her brazenness shocked me as they danced to several slow songs. I sipped my drink and waited to see what would happen next. I could tell that Vera was drunk by the way she flirted, which wasn't unusual after a few shots. She always got excited and flirted with me, which was fine. What wasn't fine was that she was kissing another man who wasn't me, and doing it openly in front of her friends. Everyone knew she was married to me, and that made me even more furious. I felt humiliated and angry watching my wife waste her love. Still frozen in shock, my blood was now boiling as I watched him openly grab her by the ass and kiss her, and she responded in kind. My anger grew, and just as I was about to approach them and break them up, they went back to the table and sat off to the side. They started kissing like a couple on their honeymoon, and I could clearly see his hands on her chest, while her hand was under the table. Just before I was about to confront them, I realized that my marriage was over. I remembered my father's words, "Respectable men do not tolerate disrespect," and I decided to act, but without resorting to violence. I could have caused a scene, ruined the perfect wedding ceremony, stopped them, and prevented the events from unfolding any further. But why? I thought, if she wants him, she can have him. She is no longer mine. With strange calmness, I took out my phone, zoomed in, and took several close-up pictures, a short video, and then sent her a text message. "Great news, darling, the meeting has been postponed and I'm back, but it looks like today you're in good hands. I'm going home, and I guess you'll be spending the night with Dr. Clayton. Now I understand why you didn't answer my calls or text messages. Well, have fun and enjoy the demise of our marriage. Tomorrow when you come home, I won't be there anymore." I pressed send and calmly watched, wondering if she would pick up her phone and read the text. While I was watching, I saw a notification for an incoming message light up on her phone. She saw it light up on the table and picked it up. Then she began pressing some buttons, obviously searching for the message. Vera seemed to sober up quickly as I saw her expression turn serious. As soon as I saw her reaction, I headed from the reception desk to my car. Vera must have panicked when she saw me leaving, but I ran outside before she could reach me. As I was opening the door of my car, I heard her scream, "Tony, please wait." I gave her a cold look, simply shook my head, got into my car, and drove out of the parking lot before she could reach me. My phone immediately began ringing, but I was not in a position to answer the call, let alone talk to her. If she wanted to be with her ex, then between us, it was over. Hell, after what I had just seen, It was already over between us. 22 years after divorcing that cheating asshole, she was throwing herself back into his arms at the first opportunity. Well, she will have to explain everything to the family and the kids because this is all on her conscience. Dozens of crazy text messages started coming to my phone. Tony, please come back. Let me explain, I love you. Please come back. God damn it, Tony. It wasn't what it seemed. I love you. But after 2 days of 10-hour flights, 2 days without return calls and messages, her cold attitude and watching her with Clayton, I was in no mood to listen to her apologies. In fact, I was angrier than ever and wanted nothing to do with her or her nonsense. After 20 phone calls and messages, I stopped and sent her one response. The text I sent said, "Go to hell. My work was going great, my kids were studying at college, which was already funded, and nothing was holding me back. I was still young enough to start over. Halfway back to Nashville, I stopped at a diner to grab a bite and take a short nap in my car before continuing on the way home. While eating scrambled eggs with bacon, I decided to let the world know how I felt. Between bites, I changed my status on social media from happily married to single. Then I posted 2 photos I had taken showing Vera and Clayton passionately kissing at the wedding. In the second photo, it was clear to everyone that his hand was on her chest. Below the photo, I explained that Vera was bargaining and going back to her ex-husband, and that I was back on the market. Yes, it was immature, but in my opinion, it was the truth. I was moving on without her. The funniest thing is that Clayton, her ex-husband, was almost 50 years old. He was going bald, overweight, and without trying to seem vain, he was no upgrade in any sense of the word. What the hell was she thinking, leaving us for some old worn-out guy who had already cheated on her? Maybe she wanted to be with a doctor instead of an accountant. In fact, it really hurt. In that moment, I felt more pain than I could ever remember. I was sad and angry, but it also made me laugh at the ridiculous situation. She was destroying her 19-year marriage for some old man who had cheated on her over 20 years ago. Buck her and fuck him. He can have her, and they deserve each other. I wasn't the kind of guy who would put up with such disrespect. I'm sure there are many guys who would say it was just a kiss and a few touches, and that there's no reason to leave her. Sorry, but in my world, either my woman is loyal to me or she's free to be with someone else. We all live with our choices. After a late breakfast and a 2-hour nap in the car, I hit the road again and pulled into my driveway at 7 a.m. When I turned on my phone, it started buzzing with dozens of notifications. There were so many that I didn't think they would ever stop. There must have been over 100 messages from her parents, her sister, and friends. 5 minutes after turning on the phone, it started ringing, and I noticed it was Vera. I wondered if she had gotten any sleep last night or spent it with Clayton. It didn't matter. I just ignored her calls because all of that was in the past now, and I focused only on taking what I needed from the house and moving on. That I got along well with her family, and when they called me that morning, I answered their call and explained to her father what had happened. James, I had no idea she was unhappy in our marriage, but the betrayal was a fatal blow to our happy life. The disrespect she showed in front of people we know is something I can't accept. No, it was clear she still had feelings for that bastard, and now she can be with him. I'm determined to find a woman who will appreciate what I can offer and remain faithful. James, I have no other choice. I'm moving out today, and will immediately put the house up for sale. Tomorrow morning I'll contact a lawyer to file for divorce. She can stay here until the house is sold, and I will treat her fairly during the divorce. Call me old-fashioned, but I won't live with a woman who wants to be with someone else. She made her choice, but I don't believe she made a wise one this time. James arrived an hour later and begged me to wait and talk to her before crossing the line. After he asked me to give her a chance to explain, I told him once again to look at that photo and see how they openly caressed each other at the wedding. I would never accept that, and doing it with her ex was just another slap in the face to me. Her father was disappointed by her actions and my decision to act so quickly and decisively. When I entered our home, I felt like I was going to cry, realizing that our happy home was no longer a home, but just the shell of our marriage. The last 5 years were spent turning our house into the perfect sanctuary. At the time, mortgage rates were below 99%, and the value of our home had doubled. As the account holder, I decided to refinance the house for its full value and withdrew almost $500,000 in equity. I immediately set up a $200,000 trust fund for each girl's college, and a little extra to give them a good start in life. We used the remaining $100,000 to upgrade the house, turning it into a showcase that we both loved and were proud of. Thanks to the lower interest rate, the monthly payment was only $1,700 higher than before we tapped into the equity. It wasn't difficult, and Vera went back to work as a secretary to help offset the extra monthly payment. I had a good salary. Nothing crazy, but as the newly appointed CFO, I was supposed to receive stock options next year, which would become our retirement fund. Vera was never involved in our finances and didn't care about them as long as she got what she wanted, trusting my financial knowledge and living a comfortable life. I tried a few times to explain what stock options were, but I could see her eyes glaze over, and she never really understood. Since it didn't matter, I just laughed to myself at her lack of interest. It was fine, I was looking forward to our future. This merger, which seemed to coincide with the end of my marriage, was supposed to bring me a bonus in the form of stock options, ranging from 40,000 shares in the event of success. Of course, I would have to wait a few years to exercise the options, but the expectation that the stock price would reach $100 per share gave me confidence about the future. Since the merger was delayed, the stock options would not be part of the divorce settlement. I was going to file for irreconcilable differences and simply divide our assets. This amounted to about $50,000 in our savings account. We would have split the sale of the house, but the full use of the mortgage meant that there would be nothing left to divide. At 44 years old, Vera would leave with her car and $25,000. If she had remained faithful, she would have lived a happy life with a secure future. Her world was about to be shaken because my anger and humiliation had overshadowed all the love and memories that had been buried deep in my soul. All I wanted now was revenge and for her to understand what she had given up. Vera's nightmare. I hadn't seen Clayton for 20 years, and it brought back so many memories, both good and bad. He had been a good husband until he cheated on me and ended our marriage. We always had chemistry and great sex, but it didn't compare to Tony. My husband was much more handsome, a great lover, and I love him fondly. But why am I sitting here with Clayton and letting him touch me and kiss me? I know it was wrong, but I kept flirting. I definitely drank too much, but Tony should have been here. God, I should have been smarter and stopped this, but it feels so good. For some reason, he still felt like a kindred spirit, and a little flirting wouldn't hurt anyone. Besides, Clayton is divorced now, and Tony didn't bother to change his trip to be here with me, where he belongs. He knew how important this wedding was to me, so I guess I owe it to myself to have a little fun after another kiss. I felt warmth inside. I remembered those kisses and the way I felt as he held me while we danced. It was a secluded spot, and everyone was a little tipsy, so I was fairly sure no one would see us. Just a few more kisses and touches, nothing more. I'd make things right with Tony when he got back. My phone buzzed with a text message. All my friends were here. Maybe it was Tony checking in. Oh God, Tony says he's here. I don't see him. Wait, is he leaving now? Damn, I need to get to him. Did he just see me kissing Clayton? Damn, this is bad. Turning to the embarrassed Clayton, I said, "Sorry, I need to use the ladies' room," desperately running out of the reception area. I saw the exit door in the hallway close, and I ran as fast as I could in my high heels. Oh God, it's Tony. And he saw me with Clayton. Tony, wait please, no answer, and he just got in his car. I tried to run after him, but he drove off. Now he's not answering my calls. How many texts have I sent him? And he's not responding. He's angry and I don't blame him. After a few more calls and dozens of messages, my heart broke when I finally got his only reply. Two of my friends found me kneeling on the street in the freezing cold and asked what happened. When I explained it to them, they were shocked by my actions and concerned that I had been caught. They know that Tony is stubborn, and if he had seen us together, trouble would have followed. Tony, 10 a.m., at home in Nashville. After gathering my things, I sat at the kitchen table and drank the last cup of coffee in the house we had built together. I was filled with sorrow and anger as I placed the empty cup in the sink. I left a short note on the table asking her not to call me and that we would talk once the divorce papers were ready. I didn't bother signing the note and simply placed my wedding ring on top of the paper. Before leaving for the last time, I opened my laptop and divided our funds, as well as canceled our joint credit card after paying off the remaining balance. From today, she was on her own. If she had fought the divorce, she could have simply paid all the bills herself. She couldn't afford the mortgage and utilities. The house would be in demand and would be quickly sold at the right price. If she hadn't resisted the divorce, we could have quickly ended this sham marriage and she could have gone back to her beloved Clayton. I left my former refuge for a dark, unknown new world. Later, I heard from my friends at the wedding that after I left, Vera was in despair. They couldn't make her stop crying until she finally lost consciousness from drinking and exhaustion from uncontrollable sobbing. Her friends felt terrible and were worried about Vera. They called me several times, leaving voice messages and texts, asking me to call back to keep her from ruining the wedding reception. The girls took her back to the hotel room, put her to bed, and checked on her several times throughout the night. When she woke up early in the morning and remembered what had happened, she tried calling me again and again. begging me to forgive her and please call her. I wanted nothing to do with her. After what I had witnessed, and I never answered her calls or messages, Vera returns home. On Sunday morning, Vera woke up with a severe hangover and the fear of divorce. She flew home at noon, and her dad met her at the airport. Later, she learned that Tony had told her father he wouldn't pick her up and that she needed a ride. Judging by the worried look on her father's face, she must have looked awful. Her dad was her support, and when she saw him there, she rushed to him and hugged him, crying on his shoulder. "Dad, I messed up and I think Tony is going to leave me." With a sad face, he quietly spoke to his suffering little girl. "I spoke to him this morning, and it doesn't look good. You know, Tony, what the hell were you thinking? And with Clayton? I don't know what I was doing. I was drunk and angry at Tony because he didn't come to the wedding. I know I messed up, but he has to forgive me, Daddy. I never even had sex with him. Sweetheart, judging by the photos I've seen, you might as well have had sex with him. I'm not sure he's the kind of guy who forgives too quickly. You know, Tony, and the fact that you were with another man and the way you were in those photos was cheating on him." When she entered the house, she prayed that Tony would be there waiting for her, but knowing Tony, she knew he had been gone for a long time. She spent the rest of the day in tears, reaching for Tony's mobile phone, hoping he would at least talk to her and give her a chance to apologize. She realized the irony of the situation when she had cheated on Tony with the man who had cheated on her so many years ago. Tony, the only man she had ever loved and the life she had cherished, seemed to have been destroyed in an instant, as evidenced by his wedding ring and the short note left on the table. Tony's day continues. Meanwhile, I moved into an apartment provided by the Pie-the-Buy company for out-of-town clients. Since no one was planning to use the apartment, I called my CEO and he agreed that I could stay there after I told him the story. My CEO, Bill, is a good friend, and he went through something similar many years ago. In fact, he suggested I postpone my plans for this year to save them for the future. The next day, I went to my office on the 16th floor. Vera wouldn't have gotten through security if she came to my work, and I gave strict instructions to security to remove her from the building if she appeared. They handled their job well, and when she did show up on Monday, they told her there would be no interaction at work. She desperately tried to talk to me, but I wanted nothing to do with her. She didn't know where I was staying, and I didn't answer her calls. She was completely isolated, angry at herself, lonely, and afraid for her future. Worried about their mother, I received several desperate calls from my girls. They begged me to talk to their mom. I explained that their mom had made the decision to be with another man, and everyone knew how I felt about infidelity. Before they started protesting, I explained that what she did was infidelity in my understanding. My girls knew it was better not to argue with me, and they respected my decision. I calmly tried to explain that their mom had chosen another man over me, and I no longer had any obligations to her, and our divorce was inevitable, but I would always be there for them and wanted to keep them in my life. I told them to remember this when they got married and never show disrespect to their husbands or cheat on them, because most men would not tolerate such a level of disrespect. Funny things happened after my post on social media. In addition to all my friends and relatives calling me to ask for an explanation, I became popular among women. Suddenly I found myself on the market and started interacting with women much younger, with more energy and enthusiasm than I had had in the last few years. The whining and complaints from Vera disappeared, replaced by intense sex, love text messages, and the constant pursuit of cheerful girls. A month later, I met my future wife Cheryl, and we quickly hit it off. A few months after the finalization of the divorce, Vera was upset when she found out about my new lifestyle. Mostly angry at herself, but also jealous and angry at me for not giving her another chance before the divorce. I rejected all her requests for meetings and communicated with her only through lawyers. In the end, the house was quickly sold. After paying the property fees and closing costs, less than $1,000 remained in the capital, which I arranged to pass on to Vera. The lawyer, only defended my options, but the court ruled that they could not account for possible future earnings and use my average income to conclude the settlement. Since Vera was working, paying alimony wouldn't be difficult, and I eventually agreed to support her for 2 years at $2,000 per month. It wasn't a huge amount, but enough for Vera to survive until she got back on her feet or found another fool to marry her. But it wouldn't be me. In the following years, I never spoke to Vera and communicated only through our lawyers. Eventually, she moved to Chicago, where she had friends in a support group. With no other prospects, she moved in with the aging Dr. Clayton. She would never be as happy as she was with me and realized what she had given up because of her anger and selfishness. Not that she didn't know how I would react, but she made the wrong decision. She never had sex with him that night, but she knew me and still made the wrong choice, acting like a lonely woman on the hunt. We actually met at our girls' graduation party 3 years later. Vera had tears in her eyes when she met my 28-year-old pregnant wife, Cheryl, and our 1-year-old daughter, Jolene. Vera was now about 47 years old, and the years had not been kind to her. She was accompanied by Dr. Clayton, who wisely kept his distance. Later that same day, Vera finally got some time alone with me. "Tony, you never gave me a chance to apologize. I should have known better. Not a day goes by that I don't think about my stupid actions that weekend. We had everything, and I gave it all up for nothing. You were the perfect husband, and I miss that wonderful life we had together. Vera, that's in the past, and I forgive you. Yes, I never thought you would be in his arms while I was away, working on our future. But I really need to thank you. You gave me 19 wonderful years and 2 amazing girls. I will always love you for that. Vera, the truth is, because of your betrayal, I found Cheryl, and starting a new family with Jolene and our newborn girl allowed me to release the anger I have been holding against you. You need to take care of yourself and live for your future. Our past is just that, the past. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing you at events in the girl's future life." Just at that moment, Cheryl came up to me with our daughter in her arms, and I introduced them. The age difference was obvious. At 47, Vera could have been Cheryl's mother, and Vera once again felt regret for losing the man she loved because of a night of anger and selfish actions. Over the next 10 years, we met at the girls' weddings. She never remarried but continued to live with Clayton, who treated her well. Seeing me with my new family and 2 little girls, she remembered so many tender memories. Now that happy life she once enjoyed was gone forever, and in the end, she would live a quiet life filled with regret for lost love and good times. As the final act of revenge that summer, after my stock options were exercised, I bought my old house, which had been put up for sale again. All my family and friends, except Vera, were excited about the return of the old house with so many memories attached to it. My girls enjoyed visiting us and reminiscing about the time when they grew up in our loving home. It's a shame Vera chose another path. She would have liked to be here and live the life we had planned together. But life goes on, and I'm enjoying creating a new life and new memories with my wonderful wife and my little girls. The rule to live by: before you do anything bad to me, make sure I'll never need you again. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next episode of English Epics. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.